If you are new to racing or have not raced, what you might not know is that the racing rules of sailing determine who has right-of-way when boats meet when racing on the course. What I've done is created my top list of things I think a newcomer on the race course needs to know. Before I get started presenting my top list, I want to show you a simple course and the rules of racing book. There are just a handful of course layouts race committees use for windsurf racing, and one commonly used is a course with a start-finish line between two marks. So getting around the course in the diagram starts with going through the start line, tacking upwind, then tacking around a windward mark A, passing it on your port side, then sailing downwind, then jibing around the leeward mark B, taking it to port also, and then finally sailing to weather again through the finish line. During a race, it is not unusual to meet and pass a few dozen boats. Most of my top points are about when boats meet, as you want to avoid interfering with the proper course of other boats, and also you want to know when you have the right-of-way. This is the U.S. book in English distributed by U.S. Sailing. The racing rules of sailing are updated and published every 4 years. Shown is the 2009 to 2012 version. The book is available in the USA at U.S. Sailing's website, www.ussailing.org. If you are a U.S. Sailing member, you get a free copy of the rules with your membership. The racing rules themselves are text, about 90 of them comprising some 35 pages. The remainder of the book is an appendix that deals with a variety of issues like scoring, sailing instructions, protests, and even radio control model boat racing. Unfortunately, the rule book itself doesn't have any pretty pictures and real-world examples explaining the rules and their nuances. For that, there is another very nice publication appropriately titled Understanding the Racing Rules of Sailing. This is a big book with quite a few helpful diagrams in it. Besides explaining the rules, the diagrams and examples give help in how to stay out of trouble spots so you don't inadvertently break a rule. The Understanding book also has a complete copy of the Racing Rules of Sailing in it. Now that you have an idea of what is in the Racing Rules of Sailing book, let's roll on with my top points of what I think you should know before you hit the course and start racing your windsurfer. My point 1 is helping those in danger. It is mandatory that you stop and aid anyone that is in need of help. If someone has an equipment breakdown, that usually isn't a dangerous situation. So if you are the one broken down, give a thumbs up and a hail that you are okay so you don't slow down other racers. If you need help or need to signal that you need help, wave your arms in an X motion across your head to get people's attention. My point 2 is the starboard right-of-way rule on opposite tacks. Rule 10 is the first of 4 basic rules about right-of-way and probably the most important. Rule 10 says that when boats are on opposite tacks, the port boat shall keep clear of a starboard tack boat. So let's say you are sailing with your right hand forward to sail over your left side. You are on starboard tack, which is boat S1 in the diagram. Rule 10 says you have the right-of-way over a boat on an opposite port tack. So boat P1 approaching on a port tack should yield to you. If you haven't seen a skipper on boat P1 make eye contact with you and a collision is possible, you should hail loudly, "Starboard!" Let's change boats and say you are the skipper on the port boat. When sailing on port tack, you need to keep an extra sharp eye out for starboard tack boats. If there is any question that you can't cross with a couple boat lengths to spare in front, then you should sheet out and slow down to pass astern of him as shown in the diagram. Let's say you are P2, the port tack boat, and you had decided you could pass in front of the starboard boat safely, but the end of your boom smacks into the boom on the starboard boat S2 as he passes very closely astern of you. Any part of the rigging in normal position is part of the boat, so this is no different than both of your hulls hitting. You broke Rule 10 and didn't stay clear of the starboard tack boat. Let's say this time there was no damage, maybe just a little new paint on S2's boom end. In this case, the sportsmanlike thing to do is for you to do a penalty turn to exonerate yourself of your bad judgment. Hail S2, you will do it 360, and as soon as you are clear of the other boats, you need to do the turn, which can be a tack or a jibe. While doing your penalty turn, you cannot make another boat alter their proper course, otherwise you will be doing another 360. Remember, when you go for it on port tack, you risk not only injury to yourself, but to the other guy also. If the crash is a hard one, you both need to stop and check neither of you is injured and need aid. This time, let's pretend you are boat S2 on starboard and don't see boat P2 on port coming, and broadside him at speed. If you think you are not at fault, you are dead wrong. It is the duty of all skippers to keep watch and avoid contact as stated in Rule 14. That means even if you are on starboard, you should be ready to take decisive action to keep clear. Since you were not looking and didn't even hail P2, any protest filed probably would get you both disqualified. My point 3 is there is a starboard side downwind also. The starboard right-of-way rule also applies when running straight downwind. In the diagram, boat S1 is on starboard tack and has the right-of-way over boat P1 on port tack. Boat P1 needs to alter course. Since half of the race is always ran downwind, you need to be sure you understand this rule.